Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and I'm here today to share my very first design team project for Bramble Fox. So really excited. I'm going to be using two perspectives from the July Fox box, so that's the Getaway and the Sun tag. And I'm also going to use a couple of older perspectives from my stash, so just a couple of little yellow flowers. And I'm also using Fox Cut number 14, which is this gorgeous stencil with hearts on it. So I've started off with a 12 by 12 white cardstock background. I've trimmed it down by 1/4 of an inch on two of the sides, and then I've machine stitched around the edge. Now I've done that before starting my layout. Normally I would do it at the end, but that means that I've already put double-sided tape around the edge of my layout, and my sewing machine needle is getting a bit fed up of me making it stitch through sticky tape. So I've done it beforehand today, and I'm going to be working with the Simple Stories Vintage Cottage Fields collection. That's a bit of a mouthful. Largely the 2x2 elements sheet. So I've got loads of those. You can see a huge pile there to the right, and I've fussy cut some out, and I'm going to have 3 of them going vertically down my layout. And I'm going to build some clusters at the bottom with my photo and a chipboard piece. I'm going to have my title up the top there, pretty much as you see it now. This layout came together really quickly. Just from me playing with those squares, they kind of landed on my page like that. My plan was initially to have 9 squares in the centre, but I put those 3 down first and thought actually I quite like that. So that's the design I've gone with. So at the moment I'm trying to decide which patterned paper I want to use to frame my layout. So that's why I trimmed it down at the beginning, so that I could add one of the patterned papers as a frame, just to tie it all together. I like the way it borders the page and just makes it have that kind of finished look about it. So like I mentioned at the beginning, I want to use that Fox Cut, the stencil. So I've just gone around the squares in the centre and the clusters with a pencil, just making a few marks so I know where to apply my stencil. So I've got some white texture paste there by Ranger. I've added some Distress Oxide to it in Picked Raspberry, and that's given me this lovely pastel pink colour, and I'm just going to press that through my stencil with a plastic palette knife or spatula, just so that I've got loads of beautiful little hearts just peeking out around my clusters and my 2x2 elements. So just doing a bit here and there, and I love the effect that gives, and I love how crisp it's come out with that texture paste through the stencil. Really lovely. And I'm obviously having to dry each section as I go, so that I don't make a big smudgy mess. So I've got my stenciling done at the bottom. I'm just bringing everything back in just to see how it all looks and trying to decide if I want to add more or not. I've placed that gorgeous little sun tag perspective to the right of my photo there, and I'm going to have that pink butterfly just sitting underneath it, so almost like it's basking in the sun. I thought that was quite sweet. So I've decided I want to have a bit more stenciling up the top around that top 2x2 element. So I'm just bringing in the spatula again and adding a bit more, really trying not to smudge it all. Almost went for it then, but decided not to be foolish and to bring the heat tool back in. And then this texture paste doesn't take long to dry at all, so with the heat gun it takes a matter of seconds, so that's quite handy. And again, just bringing everything back in to check that I'm happy with it, and I've decided I want a bit more. It's just a bit trial and error, adding a bit here and there just to see. I'd rather add too little and have to add more than add too much and really don't like it. So I do go little by little and just add here and there. And when I'm finished, I clean my stencil. I learnt the hard way a long time ago not to leave them to the end of my layout to then go off and clean, because texture paste it's just a nightmare to get off of stencils, and this one's brand new, so I really didn't want to ruin it, so I just used some baby wipes there to get that cleaned up. And I like how this is looking, but I feel like these squares need something to just finish them off a little bit. I did contemplate machine stitching around the edges of them, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. So I've picked out that picked raspberry Distress Oxide again and a blending brush, and I'm adding some of the ink to the edge of each of the sides. So trying to get it on the edge and a little bit on the front as well, just for a bit more interest, and it just finishes them off nicely. I'm gonna map my photo on some white cardstock. So my photo is 3x4. I always print them at home and I print 2 to a page, so I don't really allow for a white border, so I always add that on after using white cardstock. And I've settled on this patterned paper from the collection for my frame for my layout, so I'm just gutting the middle there so that I can use that on another layout. I leave somewhere between 3/4 of an inch and an inch when I do this, just so that there's plenty of overlapping space for the double-sided tape to stick. And I've decided I'm going to use the same patterned paper to just add a layout behind my photo and distressing the edges. Always love to distress edges. I've got my distress edging tool there. Always use that on everything. It's just one of the things I like is distressed edges and loads of dimension. So you'll see here I'm adding some craft foam behind each of the squares to raise those up. I was going to say I stick that one down flat because my photo will sit over that one, and I'm going to raise that up on foam instead. Rather than cutting into a new A4 sheet, I'm just using some offcuts here. I never throw anything away. My top drawer of my desk is just full of bits of tape, bits of foam, just random things really that don't get thrown away. So this piece here is from the chipboard sheet. I'm going to add some glossy accents to the back of that just to make sure it does stick. And for some reason I added some that was some foam tape, so just to raise that side up a little bit, because my photo's got foam behind it, and that floral chipboard piece overlapped my photo slightly, so on the other side of it I just added a bit of foam tape to raise it up to the same level. And I've got my little sun tag perspective stuck down. That was with glossy accents. I've added the butterfly underneath, a few of the floral ephemera pieces around the base of my layout, and then I've used glossy accents to get my title. Now my title was supposed to be September Getaway, because this photo is of my little boy and I disappearing to the Isle of Wight for a couple of days last September to go and stay with my parents. But I got overexcited, I guess, and just kept sticking things down and didn't leave myself any space at the end to add the word September in with some thickers. I had planned to use sort of tiny alphabet stickers, but I've stuck that butterfly in place there above it, and I'm also going to come in a minute and stick another couple of butterflies in, and one of them goes right above the G. Which of course leaves no space for September, and I hadn't realised until it came to photographing this layout. So my title is now just Getaway. I could try and remove that butterfly, but I used glossy accents, so I'm not feeling too optimistic that I will get it off without ripping my background. But that's okay, it just means my title, instead of being September Getaway, is now Getaway. And I will just add a note in my journaling just to say that we got away last September. I've drawn the lines in with pencil, and I will add my journaling later after I've photoed my layout, because I always find that my handwriting really ruins my layouts. I like to have journaling on them, but I just don't like my writing. So I always take some lovely photos of my layout first, and then I add my journaling after. And I felt like this patterned paper that I've used for my frame just wasn't pink enough to match my layout, and I wanted it to be the same colour as my stenciled hearts. So I'm using that same Distress Oxide again and a blending brush. I've kind of peeled back with my fingers my white cardstock, and I'm just going around all the edges adding some of the pink ink. It's looking a bit blotchy at the moment, and then what I do, I get a paintbrush with a little bit of water on and almost paint the water on top of that, smudge it in, and then it just looks nice and even. And just a tiny bit of water there, and I'm using my finger just to smush it down. It just gives it a much more even look, and it's not quite so pink after either. And I'm just going to finish my layout off now with some splatters. So again, using that picked raspberry Distress Oxide, just watered it down slightly and going around the edge, adding some splatters. Just another way to tie it all together. So I've used the same colour for the border around the edge, my stenciling, and then the splatters. And that's me done. So thank you very much for joining me today for my first design team project. Super excited. Obviously there will be some more from me later in the month, so look out for those. In the description box below, I will leave links to the Foxbox subscription page, also to the stencils that I've used, and the Bramble Fox Friends Facebook group as well. If you're not already a member, do head over and join us. But for now, I shall leave you with the close-ups of my layout, and I will see you next time.